Hello YouTube and welcome to another Linux tutorial. So in this video I will show you some tips and tricks on how to use the DNF. So are you ready? So let's get started. So as you may know, DNF is actually the default package manager for Fedora and Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and also some RPM based distributions. So actually it's used in order to install, update or remove packages, okay? But in this video I'll show you just some tips and tricks that can make the use of DNF much more faster. So for example, if you are facing slow package downloads and updates, you can actually speed up this process by adding a variable into a configuration file. So the configuration file for DNF is located actually in the directory etc dnf.conf. So you can use whatever editor you want. So here I'm using Vim in order to see the content of this file, okay? So here we go. So you can see it's simple plain text file. So in order to speed up slow package downloads and updates, we can add actually a variable here. So I will go to insert mode and I will add my variable here, which called actually max parallel downloads, okay? And we set it to 10 because by default the maximum parallel downloads is set to 3. So when you set it to 10, you increase actually how many downloads will occur in the same time. So when you add this variable to this actually config file, you speed up package downloads and updates, okay? And another variable that you can actually set in order to speed up the process is to select fast mirror, because you know when you update or install packages from repositories, you can choose the fastest mirror for repositories in order to download them. So in order to set up that, you can add another variable called fastest mirror. So make sure to write it correctly, and we set it to true, okay? So with these two variables, you can speed up the process of DNF downloads and updates. So actually, as you can see here, at the bottom we have a warning changing read-only file, because actually if you want to modify this file, you must have root privileges, okay? So I will not be able to save that, but just keep in mind, in order to do that, you have to open it using sudo command. So with these two variables, you can speed up the process, okay? So let's skip that for the moment. Here we go. So if you want to see your actually configuration, you can use another command, dnf config manager, and with the --dump. So here you will dump all your configuration. So as you can see here, there are all the variables that are set up by default for DNF. So of course you can change it if you want, as we did before. We add two variables here. So as I told you before, the maximum, as you can see here, the maximum parallel downloads are set to 3. but you can change it to 10 if you want, and you can add others if you want. For example, fastest mirror is equal to true in order to speed up also the process. Okay, so here you can see the variable that we have changed to true because by default is set to false. So 0 here means false. Okay, so let me clear that. Okay, so another thing, so for example, if you want to install a package, let's for example say that we want to install nano editor. Normally we use this command install, then the name of your package, for example nano. Okay, you can add /y in order to actually say yes for installing package, so you don't get the confirmation to install the packages. Okay, so normally when you do that, you get a lot of information about the packages that you want to install. So for example, here is saying updating subscription management repositories, and you get a bunch of information in order to install these packages. Okay, so if you want to get rid of all this verbose information, you can add also another option, and this option here is we do the same command but we add -q. So here -q means quiet mode, so we'll hide all the output. You will get just the final output, which is completed or not. Okay, so as you can see here, I don't get any output anymore in my terminal here because I'm now in quiet mode, so I will not get verbose information. Okay, so as you can see here, I even get nothing because it didn't do anything actually. Okay, and in the opposite, if you want to get a lot of information, verbose information, you can replace the Q by the V. So the V here means verbose mode, so we will get a bunch of information this time. It's the opposite of the quiet mode. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna get. So you can see here I get a bunch of information because I'm in verbose mode. So if you want to debug a process or install, you can add this /v. Okay, let's get rid of all that. Another tip, if you want to see all the enabled repo of, let's say that you want to see all the repo lists that you have in your system, you can use dnf repo list and all. So here you will see all the repositories that are in your system that are enabled or disabled. So the first column here is the ID. So let me show you that if I can get it. Here we go. So the first column here is repo ID, then the repo name, then status. So for example, here I have repo ID called Adobe Linux. Okay, so the repo name is Adobe System Incorporated and status is enabled. And underneath you see a lot of repos that are actually disabled, and once again here one is enabled and the others are disabled. Okay, so if you want to filter by the enabled one, all you have to do is to replace this all by enabled. So here you will get only the enabled repos in your system. So you can see here all the enabled repositories in my system. Okay, so I have a bunch of them. And in the opposite, if you want to see all the disabled one, all you have to do is to replace enabled by disabled. So of course I will get a bunch of them because there are many repositories that are disabled by default in my system. Okay. And last trick, if you want, for example, if you have a repo that is disabled and you want to enable it, so the command is pretty simple. Always don't forget to do the commands with privileges, root privileges. So in order to enable a repo, all you have to do is to type sudo dnf, then config manager. Then here you add option ---- set, enable it. Then here you can add the repo name from the list that you get before. So here I will just type something random. So this is the command in order to make a repo that was disabled enabled. Okay, so in order to enable a repo that has been disabled by default, you can just type this command here, sudo dnf.conf, and set enabled and your repo name. Okay, so that was just some tips and tricks that you can use in order to manage DNF package manager under, as you can see here, I'm using Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but of course it's also applicable for Fedora or any based RPM Linux distribution. As always, I hope it has been informative for you, and I want to thank you for viewing. Bye bye.